Good evening, everybody. I hope you're as excited as I am. I want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule for tonight's presentation, and I know you're going to love it. This is probably one of the most inquired about things is where to find seller finance notes. And so I always like to talk about it. And it's not a difficult thing, but for some reason, people just need to hear it sometimes several times. And I'll tell you what happens is they pick up a little tidbit that they hadn't heard before. Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about. And I'm really excited about this whole series. For those of you who don't know, what I'm doing is I'm doing a series of 6 different strategies that every note buyer needs to know. And so each month we'll do one of these strategies. And if you are signed up for the Academy, this is really going to help you get a jump start so that you'll be all ready for the Academy. And I'm hoping all of you can come. But if you can't, then this is still really, really good information that will help you to get your note buying business going. I also, at the end of my presentation, I want to tell you about our super duper early bird special, which is about to end. So if you are thinking about coming to the Academy, you might want to jump online and sign up. I believe that is over tomorrow, if I'm right. Is that right, Matthew? I believe that's correct. But anyway, let's get started with the finding seller finance notes, okay? So,
give me a second here and share the screen. All right.
We're set? Okay, I got to get me back here. All this technology, I'll tell you. Okay, here we go. Well, the first thing that you need to know is that money doesn't fall from heaven. I sure wish it did, because with as many prayers as I send up, I would be a multi-millionaire. The fact is that you have to market for... Now, I had this set up, and I don't know why it's not going. Here we go. You have to market for note holders. Okay? It's not just going to happen just because you came to last year's Academy or you bought my materials. You've got to develop the market. You've got to go out and get the deals. Now, the good news is that notes allow you to create massive, sustainable wealth with minimal risk. Okay? It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. Okay? But it's one of those... You apply yourself, and it's a matter of the math. You cannot help if you start investing in discounted notes because of the time value of money. You will be building wealth in a way that is not possible with other things with so little risk. Okay, and for me, I think that's a real important thing, to minimize the risk. And the really cool thing is you do not need your own cash or credit to get started. You know, as much as I say that, I still have people that come up and say, well, you know, as soon as I build up some cash, I'm going to start buying some notes. That's crazy. That's why you need to buy notes, is to build up the cash, you know, so don't get the cart before the horse. I mean, if you have plenty of money to invest, definitely invest them in notes, but you don't need to have the cash first, okay? What you do need to have is desire. You have to want to do it. You need to have persistence, and you need to have the knowledge, okay? And if you have these 3 things, I promise you that you can implement the strategies that I'm showing you, and you are going to build wealth with very minimal risk. And you also need to put in the time and the effort to make it happen, okay? You've got to be willing to make a commitment. Now, here's something interesting. A lot of times when I go out and I talk to people, they talk about they want to build a note business, and which is great. I mean, I have had a note business for 30 years, but a lot of people miss the boat because they'll say, well, I don't have time to build a note business. Well, here's the deal. if you saw my part-time investor webinar that I did with Mark Halpern, you know that you can build substantial wealth on a part-time basis. If you could commit to do 2 note deals a year, I can show you how you can totally change your financial future. Okay, so when I say you need to have time and effort to put into it, can you afford maybe 60 hours a year? If you can put in 60 hours a year, then you can do 2 deals a year that will substantially change your financial future. Okay. Now, what I want to talk about tonight is, first of all, our target market. My favorite type of deals are the mom and pops who originally owned their house, lived in it for 40 years, and they sold it with seller financing. Okay, that is absolutely hands down my favorite deal. Okay, and then I'm looking for landlords who owned rental properties and then they sold them and carried back a note. That's another really great source of seller finance deals. And a lot of times people overlook them. Okay. And thirdly, full-time real estate investors. Now, there's 2 different types of full-time real estate investors. First of all, you can look for the full-time real estate investor who creates seller finance notes not more than 3 times in a 12-month period. So maybe we should change that to part-time real estate investors. But my point is, these are real estate investors that are out there. They might be rehabbers, part-time landlords, whatever, but they're creating the seller finance notes, but they're only doing it not more than 3 times in any 12-month period. Okay. And then lastly would be full-time real estate investors who create an unlimited amount of seller finance notes. I mean, they are in the business whole hog and they're creating notes right and left. And the thing is, I want to qualify those investors as they must use a licensed mortgage loan originator so that they comply with Dodd-Frank. And if they do, let me tell you, those are the best notes you'll ever find. They are so well underwritten. I love when I get a seller carryback that was underwritten by a licensed MLO. So that's the key to working with people who are really in the business of rocking and rolling and doing notes all the time. The thing is that these 4 categories, they all provide seller financing. Okay, so any of these people would be a great source for you to find deals. Now, I want to take a minute and talk just briefly about Dodd-Frank. What you need to know that a loan must be Dodd-Frank compliant if it was created after January 10th, 2014. So if you're dealing with some older notes, it may not come into play. But honestly, most of the notes that I'm looking at today, they probably will have to be Dodd-Frank compliant. Okay. Also, the borrower is going to live in the property. If the borrower is going to live in the property, it has to be Dodd-Frank compliant. Dodd-Frank was designed to protect the homeowner, the consumer. Okay. Excuse me, I said homeowner. I meant the person living in the house. Okay. Specifically, well, the borrower. So it would be the homeowner. So if you are dealing with someone who is living in the house, then that loan has to be compliant with Dodd-Frank. But that's no problem because that's our main target market. Okay, those are the preferred loans that we want to go after. Now, if you want a complete teaching on Dodd-Frank, you can see the index. The appendix in the Note Buyer's Master Guide, or I did a nice presentation on my blog. You can check that out as well at thenotebuyer.com. Okay, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on that tonight. So let's first talk about the mom and pops. That's my all-time favorite source for seller carryback notes. These are the people, like I said, that lived in the house and they sold it with seller financing. The thing about this is the reason that this is not a problem with Dodd-Frank is it qualifies for the one-time exception. Very, very seldom do you find a mom and pop that carried back a note and they did 2 or 3 other seller carrybacks. Okay. Normally a mom and pop, that's the only note that they've ever taken back. So that qualifies them for the one-time exception to Dodd-Frank. This is a really important thing that people mess up on all the time. This one-time exception rule is the only time that a balloon is allowed on a residential loan. A residential loan being where the borrower lives in the property, okay? So it doesn't even matter if you use a licensed MLO or what, doesn't matter. This one-time exception is the only time where a balloon is allowed on a residential loan, okay? And that's important because commercial loans don't even fall under Dodd-Frank. So you can have all the balloons you want there, okay? So in this, regarding this one-time exception, you don't have to qualify the borrowers. You don't have to check to see what their income ratio is and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter, okay? And there is no need to use the licensed mortgage loan originator. So do you see that under this one-time exception, it's very, very easy to create a seller carryback note. And that's why I prefer it. And the other part of that is that because they lived in the house so long, they're not selling this as a business, okay? They carried back the note for whatever reason. Maybe they wanted a good investment. Maybe they couldn't sell the house any other way. But they've already had their use out of this property. And so typically a mom and pop is much more willing to take a discount than someone that's a landlord or a real estate investor and who is doing this as a means of profit, okay? So there's no problem with Dodd-Frank. There's great profit potential, and this is my favorite source of deals, okay? Now, another one of my favored sources are landlords, okay? And this is where a landlord sold one of his properties with seller financing, okay? If the borrower does not live in the property, like I said, it's a commercial transaction, and so it's not subject to Dodd-Frank at all. You can do whatever. I don't want to say you can do whatever you want, but you don't have to worry about, you can have balloons. You don't have to make sure that that what their debt to income ratio is, none of that kind of stuff, okay? It's definitely much easier and less stringent to do a commercial transaction than it is a residential one, okay? If the borrower is a tenant buyer. So let's say that this landlord rented the property to someone for a number of years, and then they decide, hey, I would like to buy this house. Okay, in that case, this is no problem with Dodd-Frank as long as the note seller doesn't do this more than 3 times in any 12-month period. Okay. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. Some people, in this case, no balloon is allowed. And I say this because some people think that, hey, if I only do one, then I qualify for, if you're a landlord and you only do one in a year, then hey, that's the one-time exception. Here is the key that most people totally miss. The one-time exception, it's designed to protect the mom and pops, people, individuals. And along with that goes trusts, because a lot of individuals hold their properties in living trusts, as well as estates, because if the individual passes, the estate needs to be able to handle it, okay? But what the one-time exception does not apply to is an LLC or a corporation or some type of entity like that. And so that's why I would just, unless the landlord is holding it in their own name. If the landlord is holding it in their own name and has only done one transaction in a 12-month period, then yes, they could put a balloon on it. But that's not usually the case. Okay. So that's why I say that no balloons are allowed. Okay. I hope I didn't confuse you on that. If you want clarification, again, go to my blog and watch the detailed presentation on Dodd-Frank. Okay. So if you're falling into this category of the not more than 3 seller carrybacks, you do have to confirm the borrower's ability to repay. So you have to check their debt to income ratio and make sure that indeed they will be able to make the payments. Now, the landlord usually is amenable to a discount because they have made, quote, boatloads of money off the property. And in fact, the transaction that I'm going to show you later on in the presentation, those were the exact words that this landlord used when she went to sell the note to us. She said, you know, I've owned this property for years and I've made boatloads of money. Okay. So you can, in fact, make good money on these type of transactions, and it is easy to be Dodd-Frank compliant. So far we've got our moms and pops as a great resource, a great source, as well as landlords. Okay, so I hope your mind is racing and you're thinking of how you can get in touch with the moms and pops and the landlords. Okay, but that's not all. Okay. Let's talk about the full-time real estater who is originating not more than 3 seller carrybacks. Boy, did we miss? Hold on a sec. I must have skipped the part-time real estate investor. Okay, so this is the one where, well, the landlord, let me back up here. The landlords would be that investor where I said not more than 3. Okay, I just put a different title on this. Okay, so this is the not more than 3. But what do you do if it's a company and they're originating notes right and left? In that case, they do have to be Dodd-Frank compliant if the borrower is a tenant buyer. Okay, so let's say, for example, you have an investor and they've bought a pool of non-performing notes and they have taken title to those notes one way or another. Either they foreclosed or they negotiated a deed in lieu. Maybe they've rehabbed the property and now they want to sell those notes, those properties to tenant buyers. That is going to fall under this full-time real estate investor class. Okay. And in that case, since they're doing more than 3 seller financed notes in a 12-month period, they must use a licensed mortgage loan originator. And I'm sure there are people wondering, where in the world are you going to get those? Well, the best thing I can recommend is to talk to people at your local RIA group, because usually they know someone. You can also check with regular mortgage brokers and see if you can pay them a fee if they would underwrite your loans. Okay. And I'm sure if you Googled it, you probably can come up with people. I don't know of any that are nationwide. Let me just put it that way. But again, notice no balloon is allowed in that case. And they must confirm the borrower's ability to repay. Okay. So even though this isn't my favorite means of finding deals, it can be a great source of repeat business. But here's the reason I don't like it so much, is because these people are in the business of making money. Okay. So they are much less likely to agree to a substantial discount. So that makes it less attractive, unless they're really buying a pool of notes and they're paying pennies on the dollar for the property. In that case, there might be plenty of profit to spread that around a little bit. So it really depends on where they're getting their properties that they're selling. It is harder to be Dodd-Frank compliant with this type of deal. And like I said, it's questionable how much profit you can make. And that's why this is not my favorite. But just remember, the right one could be a gold mine for you. Okay. Okay. So we have covered the one-time mom and pop deals. We have covered the, let's call it a part-time investor instead of a full-time. The part-time investor who does not more than 3 deals a year, which could be a landlord, very likely be a landlord. Or we've got the full-time investor who is doing more than 3 deals in a 12-month period. So those are our 3 different categories. Okay. So let's talk about now middlemen, because a lot of people, not a lot, but I am getting notes from people who will, they go online and they look at auction sites and or like listings of notes for sale and stuff like that. Well, why would you give away a piece of the pie if you don't have to? I mean, the fact of the matter is that normally, if an auction site, if you have a site that is an auction or they're listing notes, most of the time, well, a lot of the times, they are middlemen. People are, other people are putting their notes on those sites, and in some fashion, either the promoter, the website owner, is either getting a piece of the pie or they're being paid to do it. So you've got to realize then those people, there's not as much in it for you. That's the bottom line, okay? So to maximize your profit, what you want to do is you want to buy direct from the note holders. So go to the mom and pop, the part-time real estate investor or landlord, or the full-time investor, and sell direct to your end buyer, okay? That's how you're going to get the most profit out of your deals. So another way to say this is that you want to deal with principals and not brokers, okay? And I do occasionally work with a broker, but it has to be a deal where there's a whole lot of profit in it so that there's enough for us to split, okay? Okay, so how do you reach the note sellers direct? Let's talk about the actual marketing. Now that we know what we're looking for, how are we going to reach these people? Well, the most popular way is direct mail. It's most popular, but it does cost money. You need to buy a list, and it costs money to do the mailings. Another really good source is LinkedIn. And I would say that is by far the best free source, okay? So if you are wanting to find notes with little or no money, let's just say with no money invested in your marketing, what I would do is I would get on YouTube and I would take some courses, watch some webinars on how to do LinkedIn marketing. It is amazing the type of business and the amount of business that you can build by working LinkedIn, okay? I'm not going to get into teaching the nitty-gritty about that, but I did do it myself for a while and it works. And that is a great way to connect with note holders that want to sell their notes. And you can develop a great rapport with them and it costs you nothing but your time, okay? So it's the best free source that I know of. Internet marketing is also very good. For example, you could build your own website. A lot of people, that's how they get their deals. And I had one fellow that even set it up that the deals came right to me. You know, he had a full-time position, and so he just set up his website. And when somebody submitted a deal, that submission form came straight to me, and I sent him a quote on it. You can buy Google AdWords. You can use Craigslist. Craigslist is a great source of finding deals. And what you want to do is you want to learn how to, they call it scraping Craigslist. And you can go in any city in the country, just pick a city and put in keywords, seller carryback, note for sale, you know, whatever you think. And if you look at the ads, once you find ads of people who are selling their note, take a look at what words they're using and use those to search for more, okay? That's another free source. And a lot of my students' deals come from scraping Craigslist, okay? So I probably say that's my second favorite free source, okay? Social media also works, but not as much as LinkedIn, primarily because it's more social. quite frankly, whereas LinkedIn is more business oriented. But certainly you can put postings on social media. You can also, somehow I lost something here. Maybe Matthew, you can get that back for me. Thank you. I apologize. I must have got to something else. You can also market for FSBOs, for sale by owners. We'll talk about that more in just a minute. Okay, so who holds seller carryback notes? Okay, landlords, like I said, older folks. Let me tell you, I bet 2 out of 3 of the notes that I quote on are older people. Okay, for whatever reason. I think the reason that they're selling is because they're getting up in age. They don't want their heirs to have to deal with notes, and they're trying to convert their investments to cash. And so consequently, I do deal with a lot of older folks. So you might want to look at marketing to retirement communities, assisted living facilities, the over 55 communities, that kind of thing. Another source of people who are holding notes would be developers, contractors, and builders. For example, they might have developed a whole subdivision. And a lot of times what happens is the people will go out and get bank loans, and then they might wind up with 2 or 3 lots that they're having difficulty selling. Meanwhile, they've already started another subdivision, over yonder. And so they need to get rid of these last 2 or 3 lots. And so a lot of times they will sell those lots or those homes with seller financing. Okay. Also, mobile home park operators. Mobile homes are often sold with seller financing. Now, a key thing here is if you're going to market for mobile home operators or owners, then you also better make sure that you have buyers for that paper. I do have some good mobile home buyers, mobile home paper buyers. And if you do get mobile home park paper, then definitely let me know. I would be very interested in looking at it. But there are a lot of note buyers that will not touch the mobile home paper. Bail bondsman is another source that most people never think of. But imagine, when the bail bondsman put up bail, they usually take a mortgage on a property. And I'm sure there's plenty of people that jump bail and they wind up with a mortgage on a property, and they don't want that property. They just want their money. So that's another interesting source that most people never think of. Okay, so let's talk about networking for referrals. One of the things that you want to do is establish yourself as the go-to person for note transaction. So what you want to do is invest in business cards. I would definitely make up flyers, especially if you're going to meet people, whether you're going to meet them at a seminar or a convention. People think that because we're in the internet age that you don't need actual hard copy flyers and brochures, and that's not true at all. You'll have plenty of opportunities to hand things out. If you're going to meetups, anything like that, if you're making sales calls, then you're going to want to have business cards, flyers, and trifold brochures to hand out to potential referrals, people who could refer deals to you. Another thing that you can do is write articles. Get a lot of articles out there, and also do videos and put the videos on Facebook. That's a good thing to do on social media so that your friends know what you're doing and what you're into, and that they can see that they could refer deals to you. Be sure to prepare your elevator speech and use it everywhere you go, every opportunity that you have. And somebody taught me this a while back, and that is the most important question that you should always remember to ask is, who do you know? So you're talking to somebody, you're sitting at a soccer game, okay? And you're talking about, what do you do for a living? Okay, well, I'm a note buyer. In fact, here, I've got a card. And they go, a note buyer? What is a note buyer? Well, a note buyer, what I do is I buy privately held notes. Have you ever heard of people, you might say, have you ever sold a house and carried back a note? And like you act as the bank instead of the buyer going out and getting a bank loan, you are the bank and you have that seller or buyer pay you. And most likely they're going to say no. Well, not most likely, but your common soccer mom probably is going to say, no, never done that. But the next question is, do you know anyone who has? Okay, because I'll bet you even the typical soccer mom has heard of people who have sold properties and carried back financing. Okay, so who are the people that can actually refer these note sellers to you? Well, divorce attorneys. Okay, many times when you go through a divorce, one spouse gets their equity out of the family home by a mortgage. And I promise you that they don't want to be tied up with a mortgage, making payments to one another. So many times they want to cash out. And guess who knows exactly who might be looking for that? A divorce attorney. Okay. So a lot of times they might refer their client to you. One of my favorite sources is probate attorneys. And I mean, I have dealt with a lot of probate attorneys, and they love me because I help them to serve their clients. They might have been the attorney for a mom and pop, and the mom and pop passed away, and now the heirs just want to cash out. Well, the probate attorneys don't even want a referral fee because probably it's illegal for them to accept one since they're licensed. But more importantly, they're making plenty of money off of their legal fees. And we can make them look good by saying, hey, if you ever have any clients who are looking to sell notes to cash out, have them call me and I can help them out. And what's very cool about hooking up with a probate attorney is that you'll get a lot of repeat business from them. Once you do one successful deal, there's a lot more to follow. Okay. Likewise with real estate attorneys, they know who has carried back a note and who might be interested in cashing out of that. Also CPAs and financial planners, as well as mortgage brokers and realtors. Another source that you probably haven't even thought about are title companies. Okay, so all of these people are people who know other people who carried back a note. And if you connect with them, then you can get them to refer business to you. They're not the ones who actually are holding the mortgage, but they can refer you to people who are holding a mortgage. Okay, so keep that in mind because that can be a great source of ongoing business for you. Okay. So where can you network for the actual note holder or for people who can refer note holders to you? Again, LinkedIn, that's at the top of my list. That is a great place to meet people. Facebook groups, meetups. Do y'all know what a meetup is? In fact, if you've heard I often share the example of my nephew who did his first deal and made $15,000 on it. And he got that deal by going to a real estate meetup group. Just you go online and you can find them. They're all over the country. You can find one close to you. And you would be surprised at the number of deals that you might be able to pick up from that. Chamber of Commerce meetings. And this includes like business networking meetings. There are a number of different ones where like you'll have one person like a CPA, a financial planner, a realtor, a mortgage broker, an attorney, groups like that. Those are all, now you're getting people, a whole group of people who can refer business to you. So if you can participate in something like that is great. As well as real estate and note buying events. You're going to meet all kinds of investors, both property investors and landlords, as well as note holders that may want to cash out for one reason or another. So real estate and note buying events. And when you go there, make sure that you take plenty of business cards, okay? And if you have any sample deals, I would also print those deals up. If you have a note that you want to sell, man, whenever I go to those events, I print up flyers and I make sure to pass out those flyers if I'm looking to sell a note that I already have. Conventions and trade shows fall into that same category. So here's the thing that I really want you to know. Over time, networking will be your best source by far. And what gets me about it is that most people find that hard to believe. And I think the reason is that it's not concrete. Direct mail seems much easier. You buy a list, it's a numbers game, send out your letters, and you wait for the people to call. And so it's just do it, okay? Whereas networking, you need to get out there, socialize, whether it's online or in person. You need to want to talk to people. But when you do that, you can make invaluable contacts and you will develop a rapport with people. And what's very cool is once you develop that rapport, they will come back to you. They will save your business card and they will come back to you time and time again. So networking is a great source of repeat business. Okay. So please do not underestimate that just because it's abstract. Okay. It happens to be the best source of all. And your goal should be to become so well known as a person who buys notes that you don't even have to market anymore. You know, that your name automatically comes up at the top of Google as someone who buys notes. Okay. Or that at the local RIA group, somebody says, oh, I got a note for sale. And they say, oh, you need to call so-and-so. That it becomes common knowledge. That's when you're really going to be successful. But that comes by going out and networking to begin with and letting people know that you buy mortgages. And I want to stress, one of the best ways to do that is to offer a note for sale. When you go to your local RIA meeting, most of them nowadays, they have the buy-sell thing or show and tell or whatever you want to call it. And you can get up and say, hey, I've got this great seller carry back note for sale. Anybody interested? Give them the details. And guess what will happen? If they're interested in selling a note, they're going to hunt you down and say, hey, I got a note I'd like to cash out of. Is this something that you'd want to give me a quote on? Okay. I cannot emphasize that enough. And yet so many people discount networking. I will tell you that one of my most successful students for both notes and properties, she had a great technique. She set aside a certain amount of time that on, I don't remember what it was, but like 1 day a week or 2 days a month. And that's all she did was go to different meetings. And it was just built into her calendar that she went and did her networking. And she always got lots of deals just through her networking. Okay. I already mentioned social networking. It's often free, but I definitely prefer LinkedIn because it's more professional and more effective. The others are just a lot more casual. But if you are using the Facebook or Twitter, one way to do that is to join note buying groups or real estate groups. That way it's a little bit more business-like, okay? Direct mail, as I said, is the most popular way. And I want to talk a little bit about that. I have two different specific strategies that I use. One is to send out letters. And these letters, they can be handwritten or professional. I personally think that the professional letter works better, okay? You've heard of the yellow letter. In my opinion, and from my experience working with students, that type of letter does not do as well for notes as it does for properties, okay? Because most people are thinking that a financial matter, such as buying or selling a note, that needs to probably be a little bit more professional, okay? But in comparison, the postcards, you only want those to be handwritten because that's a completely different strategy, which I'm going to share with you momentarily. So how do you start your direct mail? The first thing to do is to buy a list of note holders. It's very easy. Google buy seller carryback list. It's very common today. There's all kinds of different list sellers, list providers. Usually you can expect to pay 10 to 20 cents per name. Okay, here are a couple different sources: listsource.com, notesellerlist.com, notedocs.com. Experian is a good source, but you'll find lots of different sources for lists if you just Google a seller carryback list provider. Okay. Okay, so this probably is going to be one of the most informative slides that most people will want to refer back to. So if you're not taking notes, now would be a good time to pull out a pencil and a sheet of paper, because people always ask me, they go to buy their list and they say, hey, I don't know what to ask for. What parameters should I use? Well, first of all, no war zones or high crime areas, okay? I don't mind low income housing or blue collar housing, but you don't want the really bad neighborhoods. You would want to have a fair market value of the house of at least $75,000. That is a guideline, not a rule, because the fact is that there are some places, like I buy a lot of properties in Tennessee, nice little blue collar neighborhoods, and they sold for $50,000 or less. Okay. But just as a general guideline, I would look for properties that are $75,000 or more. It's a good idea to have a current balance of $40,000 or more left on the note. And the reason for that is, the smaller the note, if you have a minimum profit of, say, you've got to make $3,000 on a deal, if you're working with a $100,000 note, the note seller is going to be, it's going to be much easier for them to accept a $3,000 discount than it would be if you're working with a little $10,000 note. Okay, so it's easily to absorb a decent profit if you're working with notes that are more than 40,000. But I got to tell you, I just had a student just a couple months ago that bought a note, and it was about 30,000, and we made about $4,500 on that, I believe. Okay, so it can be done. Again, these are guidelines. As far as how old the note should be, I would say that the sweet spot is between 1 and 4 years old. The reason that I say this is, and as long as the note has not been paid off, it's still a viable candidate. But once people hold that note for 4 years, that's a pretty good indication that they intend to keep it for as long as possible. So the only reason they're going to sell that is, like I said, if they're older and they're trying to divest of all their investments and they're trying to cash out, then they might be interested. Notes that are less than 1 year old, typically they haven't had a change of heart yet. Okay, so that's why I say a sweet spot is between 1 and 4 years. Now, here's something that many people miss. They send out one letter to everybody on their list. Let's say they buy 1,000 names and they send out 1,000 letters and they don't get the response that they would like. Let me tell you that marketing experts will tell you that a person needs to be, quote, touched 3 times on average before they do anything. So rather than send out one letter to 1,000 people, it would be a whole lot better if you just sent out 300 letters and send them out once a quarter to those same 300 people. You're probably going to get a lot more deals done that way. Okay. And at the Academy, I talk a lot more about, what kind of envelopes to use and the different specific strategies that will help you to get a better response. Okay. You can do either residential or commercial, whichever you prefer. I would avoid mobile homes unless they have been converted to real estate. Okay. And how do you tell that? If there is still a title to that mobile home, like a title to a car, you don't want to buy that. However, nowadays, many mobile homes have actually been converted to real estate where they pour a foundation and that mobile home is permanently affixed to the land. In that case, That's definitely a deal that I would be interested in looking at. Land contracts are very good prospects. Do know that you might need to convert those to a mortgage before you close. And by the way, I've got some very, very interesting techniques that will save you money on the land contracts and help you to close more deals and to be more competitive in your offer. And I'm going to cover that in detail at our academy in September. Okay. This is a typical letter, and you will find this in your Note Buyer's Master Guide. It's also in the Library of Forms. But this is a typical letter. Notice that you always want to include your business card, okay? I ask questions, or I include a preliminary data sheet of the information that I need to get in order to give them a quote. And another thing I do is I always offer them a free amortization schedule as an incentive for them to give me a call, okay? And I tell them to be sure to save the letter. You know, they may not need money right now, but stick this in your file with your mortgage documents. And if you ever need cash, give me a call and I'll tell you how much cash I'll give you today. Okay. Okay. So notice that in this campaign, in the letter campaign, notice that I've tried to look very professional. Okay. This is a well-written, professional looking letter. I explain exactly what I'm trying to do. I understand from public record you're receiving payments on a mortgage. Instead of waiting for those small payments, how would you like to receive a lump sum of cash? Okay. That is the specific strategy when you are using letters. Now we're going to flip over and we're going to talk about the postcard campaign. When you're using a postcard, it is a totally different strategy. I had a student once who took everything that was on the professional letter and put it on a postcard. It was a larger postcard, like a half sheet of paper. And on one side was a beautiful picture. The other side was all the, would you like, you know, I understand you're receiving payments. Would you like a lump sum of cash? And it was beautiful, but he didn't get any results. Why do you think? The fact is that when the person can see, immediately say, just another mass mailing, another sales piece, and it goes right in the trash. If you write your letter in a professional way and you use all the things that I teach you about, you know, what kind of stamp and what kind of company return address and all of that, the people are going to be intrigued and they're going to open it up and read it, and they are far more likely to call you. However, this postcard campaign works a little differently. Your goal is you don't want them to know why you're reaching out to them. You just want to get them on the phone. And once you get them on the phone, then you can sell yourself. So you want to keep your postcard very basic. Dear Mr. Johnson, please call me concerning the mortgage that you hold on 7 Mill Road in Bethany. Sincerely, your name, and notice the cell number. And I say cell. I say that because I want them to know this is serious. I need to get a hold of you right away. I recommend that you use plain manila postcards like you'd buy at the post office. Okay, a lot of times they're pre-stamped. If you use a picture postcard, no problem with that, but make sure that it's not something controversial. No political campaigns, nothing that's going to anger somebody just because they don't have the same belief as you. Okay, but most important, you want your postcard to look handwritten. It should look like, oh my gosh, who is this Donna dealer? Man, I wonder why she needs me to call about the mortgage. Gosh, I wonder if the people moved out. I wonder if there's a problem with the property. I wonder what's going on. I better call and find out and see what she wants. Do you see the difference? So once they call you, then you have the opportunity to say, I'm a real estate investor and I'm interested in investing in your area. And I understand from public record that you're receiving payments on a mortgage. Have you ever thought that you might like to receive a lump sum of money instead of waiting for those little monthly payments? Because if so, I'd really like to talk to you. And it gives you the chance to build a rapport with the people. Now, that's one of the things that we do at the Academy. We do a lot of role playing where you'll actually, like students will come up, and sometimes I have the student be the note seller, sometimes the note buyer, and you can see how different people interact, and you'll get some ideas so that you'll know how to deal with a potential seller when they answer your postcard campaign. I'll tell you what, that role playing is very effective. I've always loved that when I'm attending people's seminars, okay? So you do need to keep in mind that the letter and the postcard are two entirely different strategies, okay? And I think I've already covered that, okay? Okay, and so let's talk about another way for you to find deals, and that is by marketing for FSBOs. I mentioned that briefly before. FSBOs are for sale by owners, in case you don't know. So what you want to do is educate them on the benefits of seller financing. And again, I wish I could get all of this in this hour, but it's hard to get 4 days of teaching from the Academy into these to 6 hours that I'm going to cover on these strategies. But I will go into detail on how to work with homeowners and how you approach them. You need to be careful about it because you don't want to come across as a realtor, unless you are a licensed realtor, and you don't want to present yourself as an attorney. So you need to do it very carefully. But when you do, you can help them to create a note and sell their property, and you're going to teach them how to create high quality notes, and you would like for them to season it, hopefully for 12 months, but actually, if they follow your recommendation, it could be a lot less than that, okay? And so by doing that, if you don't want to spend time going out and looking for existing notes, what you do is you cultivate potential note holders, teach them how to create the notes you want to buy. They will be so grateful that you have invested in time with them that once they sell that note, that they're going to call you and find out, hey, what do I do now? Okay. And again, at the Academy, I'll be teaching exactly how to create notes that you'll want to buy. Okay. Okay, and I'm going to mention real brief before we finish, don't forget that the super duper special, which is the lowest price that you're going to find for the Academy, that does end tomorrow. So be sure, and I'll talk more about that at the end of the webinar, but I just want to briefly mention, don't forget to take advantage of that special. But in closing, I want to share with you one of my favorite deals. You may have seen this before, but I like to share it because this was just near and dear to my heart. This is one of my easiest 1, 2, 3 coaching deals. And many of you who have been to the Academy, you met Rick before, and Rick had sent out a direct mail letter. And the interesting thing is that Rick lives in Michigan, I live in Cincinnati, and Sally Seller lived in Texas. But that didn't stop us from doing a deal. And so what happened was Sally received Rick's letter and she called him up. And she is the proverbial landlord that I told you is a perfect candidate to buy notes from. Sally Seller was a real estate investor long before women were in real estate, okay? And she had been in real estate all her life. She owned rental properties for a long, long time. As she got up in age and wanted to retire, she sold off a lot of those properties and carried back the financing. She was way ahead of her time. Now she was really up in years and she was very seriously ill. And she was anxious to sell this note. And her exact words to Rick were, I have made a boatload of money on this property. She'd owned it for years. And she says, look, if you can give me $80,000 for this note, we've got a deal. And so I told him, offer her $80,475. Because if he'd come back and just said $80,000, then she might have second thoughts. Oh, wow, I should have asked for more. So we offered her $80,475, and she jumped on it right away. And so this is a typical seller carryback deal. And I love it because we were able to buy this note from her before she passed. She did actually pass shortly after we closed, but we were able to give her peace of mind because we were able to get the deal done in a timely fashion. So what happened here was we got this under contract, and this is, like I said, based on our easy as 1, 2, 3 coaching. So Rick found the deal. He sent me the submission form with the details and a copy of the note. I prepared the quote. Like when I prepare a quote, I write it out. Okay. You can literally read the quote if you want to. So I take out all the guesswork. This is all part of the coaching, the easy as 1, 2, 3 coaching that you get when you buy the master guide, okay? And so I write up the quote, he delivers it to her, she accepts our offer, so he lets me know, then that's when I walk you through the entire deal. So I prepare the note purchase agreement and I give it to him. He gets her to sign the note purchase agreement. He gathers the documents. One way of thinking of it is like you will be the liaison with the note seller, and I will be the liaison with our end buyer. Okay. But I'm going to be with you, holding your hand every step of the way. And let me tell you, this is a phenomenal way to learn the business because you're making money while you're actually, working on you're learning while you're making money on a real deal. So what I did then was I contacted one of my investors who I knew lived in Texas. Little did I know that he lived a half hour away from this property. That's definitely a God thing, in my opinion. I don't believe in coincidences like that. And so he, needless to say, was very interested. He went and looked at the property. We got it under contract. The truth is, I probably could have sold this note for $100,000, but because he was able to move quickly, I knew Sally was anxious to sell. And so I went ahead. We sold that to him, and Rick and I shared the $14,525 profit. That's gross profit. We actually had an appraisal, title work, and closing costs that we had to deduct from that. But that is your typical seller carryback deal. Notice, and this is something that I also teach at the Academy in detail. You'll say, but where did you get the $80,000? We used Ivan Investor's money, and I teach 2 different legal, easy ways to use your investor's money so that truly you don't need your own cash or credit to do this deal. Neither Rick nor I had money invested except for the appraisal, okay? And if you're doing it on the coaching program, I pay for the appraisal, okay? So this is a typical way that you can make money without any of your own cash or credit. So if you are looking for some quick cash, this is what I would recommend that you do. It's very, very easy. But now I want to show you what this deal looks like from Ivan's perspective, because it's really, really sweet. It turns out that Ivan, he is an attorney, and one of his specialties is working with people who need help repairing their credit so that they can get financing, okay? And so the night before we closed, I always do a conference call with the investor and I introduce them to the borrower. And we have this call. And while I'm on the phone and we haven't even closed yet, Ivan says to the borrower, hey, how is your credit? She says, well, my husband had a heart attack a couple years ago and I'm still paying off some of the medical bills. He said, look, if I can help you to get your credit up to par, would you be interested in refinancing? Because I could help you to get into a much lower interest rate, which would save you some money. So I sold this note to Ivan, and I get an email from him. And he had already cashed out of that note. 3 months later, on his $95,000 investment, he got a payoff of $117,000. He had bought the note at a 17% return. So in other words, he bought the note, and if it paid as agreed and never paid off early, he was going to make 17% on his money. But because it paid off early, because he actively worked with that homeowner, helped them to refinance, it pays off early. That makes his rate of return jump to a whopping 96%. Okay? Are you making 96% on your investments secured by real estate and never have to deal with the proverbial tenants, trash, or toilets? That's why you should be doing notes, okay? But I wanted you to see that. So truly, the important concept here is that when you buy a note at a discount, this does not count for private lending, okay? Which, by the way, private lending is something I'm also going to talk about at the Academy, okay? That is another great source of money on notes. And I don't normally teach that at the Academy, but I'm going to add it to this year's. But when you buy a seller carryback at a discount and it pays off early, your rate of return, it cannot help it. You cannot stop it from going up, okay? And the important part of that, just so you know, is that you have to immediately reinvest the payoff in another note. Okay, so that concludes my example as far as the where to find notes. Okay. Oh, I'm getting a request here. Okay, as I told you, the super duper early bird special is supposed to be over on Tuesday night. Yes, I will agree to extend it through May 7th. Okay, so for those of you who are brand new and are not familiar with it, that will give you a week so that you can, make your plans and get signed up at the lowest price that I offer the Academy at. Okay, but right now I want to take you to the Academy site and I want to show you exactly what you're in for, because you're going to love it. Okay, get back to this slide here.
Hold on 1 second.
Take us back to the Academy page. I want to show them pictures of last year's Academy, or one of the previous years. My Academy is different than anything else you have ever been to. I will promise you that. It's an experience. In fact, it's such a great experience that many people will come back, like they'll come back 3, 4, or 5 times. I'm not kidding. Because each time they learn something new, even though a lot of the material is the same, every year I'm adding more to it. Plus, I talk about what's going on in the marketplace right now, the deals that I have done. And so if I'm doing, like right now, I'm doing a lot of private lending. So I'm going to share about private lending at the Academy. I've been doing a lot of land contracts. And my son, Ben, who many of you know is a real estate attorney, he and I have developed a really cool way. This is really his idea, but we've incorporated that into my note buying on a great way to use trust to close your land contracts. And so there's lots of things like that that I add to every year. And so it is fun, it is educational, and it is a great place to network. You're going to meet other like-minded people. I'll tell you something, when I first got in the business, I would go to every note buying event that I could. And many times I could teach that. I could have stood up and taught exactly what they were presenting. But the reason that I would go is because there's a synergy that is created when you're in a room with like-minded people that are all interested in the same thing you are. And like they would be, I remember one man in particular, he was presenting one thing, but it just triggered something in my mind. And I thought, oh my gosh, you know what I could do? And I walked away with something completely different that he didn't even discuss. Okay, so it's that kind of thing, that being in the atmosphere that is conducive to inspiring you, to educating you, to getting to know other people. I mean, it's just an awesome time. And I say fun. It is fun. Is it okay for me to scroll down now, Matthew?
Yep.
Okay, so let's look here at some previous, like it's a small classroom setting. Okay. This is not some 200 people in a room. I like keeping things intimate. Okay. So it's a classroom type setting. It's casual. Um, it's held at the Radisson Hotel. If you've been in Covington, Kentucky, which is right across the river from Cincinnati, it's the iconic round hotel. I don't know if I should give this away or not, but I actually went to my prom when they opened it up. It was like one of their grand opening times or something. And I went to my prom dinner at the Revolving Restaurant. But it's a really cool piece of Cincinnati. It's right on the river, and it just is a great place. And when we go up, one of the things that I do is that I supply all of your food. So we will have a continental breakfast in the room. So you can come down just a little bit early and get some food. Thank you for showing these pictures, Matthew. You will get the. I'm sorry?
I was trying to get down to the cruise. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So let's go back up here. I take you. I provide the meals, is what I was telling you about. And so we have the continental breakfast, okay? And that'll be right in the room. But at lunchtime and at dinner, we go up to the 16th or 18th floor, and they have a wonderful chef there. And one of the biggest complaints I get about the Academy is people put on 10 pounds. I mean, you get great meals, hot meals. But what's really neat is the atmosphere. You're looking out over the city, over the river, and here you are eating with other people. That's a great chance to network and get to know other people. In fact, I highly recommend that you sit with different people every day. When you do that, you get a chance to meet even more and more people, okay? But then the highlight of the event is on Saturday night. I take you on a riverboat cruise up the river. This is a photo of us out. We're just cruising up the river, and I don't know what happened there, and talking, just getting together, enjoying the night. It's like all work and no play makes Donna a dull girl. So I like to get out. And after being in the classroom for 3 days, this is a great opportunity to relax and enjoy and refresh and get ready for the last day. And a great place also to network, okay? So, Matthew, I'm trying to get to those other pictures and I can't seem to get to them. Do you know where I want to go?
I was looking for the, I was going to scroll down to where the bonuses are.
Where the videos are. I want to show them where the videos are and everything, because I think they're going to want to watch the videos. We've got video testimonials of people. Here we go. I just didn't go far enough. So these are other people who have been to the academies. I encourage you to go to thenotebuyer.com, scroll all the way down and listen to their testimonials, because people absolutely rave about it. This is what I was looking for. I have several guest speakers. Alan Cowgill always joins me, as I do join him on his, because he teaches private lending and how to raise money for private lending. And it is a perfect companion to notes. Okay, everybody loves him. And if you're doing private lending with him, you need to be doing notes. If you're doing notes with me, you'll want to do private lending with him. Also, my son, Ben, will be there teaching about entities and some of the legal aspects of note buying and real estate investing. Here we are up on the 16th floor. You can see everybody having a good time, enjoying a great meal. Okay, so those are just a few pictures. Oh, here we are outside on the riverboat. That's the Belle of Cincinnati, and just enjoying a nice fall evening. Okay, so what will you learn? Oh, at the Academy, I teach so many different facets of note buying. We focus a lot on seller finance notes. Also on non-performing notes, although I'm not wild about those right now, but yet there's still a very viable place for them. And so we're definitely going to be taking time out. I want to show you how to do some forbearance agreements and rework notes, modify them, how you can, if you like my place, what I do now, I used to do non-performing notes and short sales. Oh, just like crazy. However, now the time that I will buy a non-performing note is if I find one in the area where I want a rental property, because I want to use that non-performing note as a backdoor to get the property. And I think that is an awesome, awesome strategy if you are looking to build a portfolio of properties. Okay. So we definitely will be covering the non-performing notes. Like I said, we're going to talk about private lending. We're going to talk about creating notes. I'll share with you how to do wraparound mortgages, how to put some of that profit into your IRA. Carl Fisher is going to spend time with us this year. He has Canama Plan. That's where I have my personal IRA. It's an awesome company to be with. They're very efficient. They don't get bogged down with red tape. Carl, he and I did note deals together years ago before he ever had Canama Plan. So he definitely is in tune with what we do, and he makes it very easy to get the transactions done. So you go to the website, you'll see a variety of things that you're going to learn: how to put money in your pocket in the next 30 to 60 days, how to build your IRA, all of these things. You can go through it. I'm not going to tie up your time anymore, but I invite you to go to the website and just listen to the Academy, the testimonials and everything that other people say. So without further ado, I want to tell you about our super duper early bird offer, which now will expire May 7th. Okay. So we're going to extend this through May 7th. And this is the lowest price you're going to find this for. And it is normally $24.97 a person, and it's $1,000 off with our super duper early bird special. So if you already have the master guide, you can come as one person for $14.97. Bring your spouse or legitimate business partner. This is not a thing where you just pair up and bring somebody, but you can bring your partner for $600. The reason that I do that, I would love to say just two of you come for $14.97. It literally cost me over $500 for food and everything, the cruise and everything for each person. And so that's why I need to charge that much, and I need to charge extra if you're bringing a second person. And that's why it's not fair to me just to pair up with just anyone. It needs to be a legitimate partner. Okay. So come by yourself as a single attendee for $14.97, bring a partner, add $600. Now, what has happened is I have built and built on the Academy. And yes, it's fine for beginners because I try to cover all aspects, but you really need to at least have the master guide, okay? You need to have at least listened to those CDs, or better yet, one thing that we're including as a free bonus is the 2018 media set, which is the video, the audio, if you want to play it in your car, and the manual from last year's Academy. Okay. So if you sign up for this year's Academy, what I'm trying to do is prepare you so that you can make the most out of the Academy. If you go through everything one time, and then when you get to the Academy, that allows me, instead of just standing up there and just reciting the stuff over and over again, we can do role playing. I can help you with like workshop type stuff where I help you to modify a note. We can get together in groups and do quotes. You know, there's so much more that I can do to help you learn if you will take the time to prepare yourself, okay? And so if you don't already have the master guide, I've got a special for you. You can add it to this bundle for only $997. Now, I've had a couple requests saying, hey, I just bought the master guide, you know, so many months ago, but you're offering a special now. Can I get this special? I need to tell you something. I pride myself in always making a fair offer. I want everybody to learn this. And so I always try to give the lowest price that I possibly can. And so I do it for that particular event. And so if you bought and I was at somebody else's event or a RIA meeting, you need to realize I didn't get half of that money, okay? Because I have to share that with the promoter. So now to come back and ask for an even greater discount, the money's just not there. I would have had to charge more at the event if I was going to give you this discount on top of it. And so please accept that and understand. Right now, this academy is $2,497. I want you to come for the very best price. I'm offering it to you for $1,000 off. And what you need to realize is out of that $1,497, $600 of it is going to go right back in your pot, I should say in your stomach, in the way of food in the riverboat cruise, okay? So I hope you're understanding about that and you recognize the value of this deal, because I can tell you, I've been to lots of different seminars of all types, and I truly do not know of any place where you are going to get this quality of education, this comprehensive amount of material as what you're going to find in these 4 days. And so whether you want to build a note buying business or whether you want to be a part-time investor, do a couple deals a year and change your financial future, then you need to make time to come to the academy. It's 4 days. It is Thursday through Sunday, and that is September 29th. Do we have that date? It starts on, it's not September 29th, it's September 19th. Okay. And again, it is in Covington, Kentucky, which is right across the river from Cincinnati. The best place to fly into is Greater Cincinnati Airport. Okay. But I really, really hope that if you are wanting to do notes, that you can make the time and make a way to come. I would love to meet you there. I know you will be absolutely thrilled with the results, thrilled with what you're going to learn, and you will just have a wonderful experience. So go to this page on the website, thenotebuyer.com, click through, or you can just go right up here to products. Here's the super early bird special. Also, just so you know, you can scroll down here. All the details are right in here. Okay. So you can just scroll down. I'm not going to take the time now, but you can see everything that's offered there. And here's where you decide what you want to do. Coming by yourself, coming with your partner. Are you coming by yourself and adding the master guide for $1,000? Are you coming with your partner and getting the master guide? Pick your option, click there. It itemizes what you've got, add that to the cart, and you're good to go. Okay, it's that easy. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed my presentation tonight, and I hope you'll join me for the other 5 strategies that I'll be having one each month until the academy. So thanks so much for your attention. I hope to see you in September at the academy. God bless you. Good night.